Hi there, KOIN 6 Chief Meteorologist Josh Cozart here, and boy, do we have some nice weather taking shape here across the Pacific Northwest, and this is going to be a trend that we hold on to at least for the next 24 hours. We're going to be watching a big weather pattern shake up here as we start to push our way closer to the long holiday weekend. We're talking about the Portland Winter Light Festival, Valentine's Day Saturday, and of course President's Day on Monday, giving us that extended weekend where those scattered showers are going to start to make sites like this here across the Pacific Northwest look a little different. But boy, what a beautiful way to start off our Wednesday afternoon, carrying us through the rest of this evening with just those high, thin cirrus clouds, really allowing for a pretty picture to be painted here across the Pacific Northwest. And you can see up and down the I-5 corridor along the coast, picking up on just beautiful conditions here across the Pacific Northwest. I anticipate a beautiful sunset to also start to take shape as the skiers and snowboarders alike are also enjoying the beautiful weather up in elevation. The snow's still in place, but a few additional snowflakes are a very real possibility as we start to move our way through, I'd say, about the next 48 hours. All right, as far as our weather pattern goes right now, everything is calm, quiet, and mostly clear. You can see a few of those clouds hanging off just out over the eastern and central sections of the Beaver States, but those are expected to start to fall back as we move our way, I'd say maybe through the next 2 to 3 hours. But then we start to increase the cloud coverage widespread. That's all going to be a bit of foreshadowing of what's still to come as we push our way into a slightly cloudier, slightly cooler Thursday for us, as many of us earlier this afternoon managed to actually climb back up into the mid-50s. So I promise you that weather pattern change, it is in store as we take a live look out towards Seaside. That's where some beautiful coastal conditions are unmatched. We have seen well above average temperatures going back to last week, where many of us warmed back up into the mid-70s, and now we are really enjoying that sunshine and the above average temperatures felt today. That's where many of us are climbing back up into the 50s, low 60s in many cases. So almost feeling like the early onset of summer as opposed to, say, the early point of the month of February. So definitely going to be keeping a close eye on those conditions as we do have the potential threat come Friday, Saturday, and the Sunday. So that's going to carry us through the weekend for an increased activity in the sneaker wave potential. So doing all the things that we always do to practice our safety along the shoreline. So we're talking about staying off those rocks, the jetties, the logs, and never turning our back on the ocean is going to be a must as we start to work our way through the next several days and towards our weekend as well. But boy, what a beautiful sight out towards the Ridgefield area. You can see Mount Hood there off in the distance. As the rest of this afternoon, we hold on to those clear skies. It's not until we approach the midnight hour that I start to anticipate a few more of those clouds to increase across our area. That's going to help to slow that cooling trend that we've already started to see taking shape over the next several hours, so falling back into those 40s in many cases. So just kind of keep that in mind as we push our way closer to midnight. The clouds, they increase. They act like that blanket to help keep conditions on the mild side. So here's how the weather pattern is really going to be shaping up. Right now, we have a dying low pressure system primarily impacting the state of California with a few scattered showers, not really impacting us here in western Oregon and southwest Washington, all because of that ridge of high pressure that you see situated just to the south and west of us. That's helping to keep things on the warm, dry, and very spring-like side. But as we put things into motion, you'll notice that that trough of cooler air situated over the Gulf of Alaska, that's going to be ushering in cooler temperatures. We call that a trough because it kind of looks a bit like a feeding trough, and that's going to be swinging its way through the Pacific Northwest, and that's going to be our cooling mechanism. So we're talking about afternoon highs falling back into the mid to upper 40s in many cases. Overnight lows back into the 30s, so definitely going to be holding on to those more winter-like conditions that we typically associate with this time of year. But we will be rebounding to what is typical or average for the early and middle point of February. We're talking about our average temperature being roughly about 51 degrees or so. That is a welcome sight. Now, as far as the low pressure system in that trough, it really starts to kind of disconnect from the main flow of the jet stream. So that's kind of where you see those orange and blue colors come together. That's where our jet stream is, the driving factor for all of our storms from the west to the east. That's going to help to keep those cooler temperatures, the rainier conditions over much of the Pacific Northwest as we start to move our way through the next week or so. Here it is broken down with our futurecast. There's those clouds increasing after midnight. I anticipate them to not necessarily be densely packed, but a high, thin layer of cirrus clouds kind of filtering out some of the harshest of the sun's rays are anticipated as we start to push our way into the early morning commute on your Thursday. Maybe a light drizzle for the coastline, but you'll notice we see a few of those breaks in the clouds really as we start to push our way into Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening. So come this time tomorrow, expecting to see maybe a few breaks in the clouds and maybe even a beautiful sunset starting to take shape. So get those cameras ready to go and head to KOIN.com so you can share them with us here in the KOIN 6 Weather Department. But overall, we are picking up on more cloud coverage, more densely packed, and that will eventually give way to, there you go, some more wet weather finding its way back into the Pacific Northwest. Mountain snow, also a returning kind of feature for us, something that we've seen become elusive over the past several months. So this is a good little burst of moisture, not only for the coast and for the valley locations, but also for the high terrain of the Cascades, really picking up on that wet weather trend. That's going to take us into the afternoon hours. Again, this is Friday, so Thursday, that's your key takeaway. That's a dry day for us. As we work our way into Friday, that's when we start to pick up on that wet weather trend. And it will be filling up the bucket, at least for Friday morning through Friday afternoon, maybe picking up close to about 1/10 of an inch, maybe even closer to 1/4 of an inch for some of us out towards the coastal areas. So that will be a welcome sight as those rain gauges continue to fill up. And we'd like to see that, especially as we push our way into the weekend. We're talking about already coming upon the middle of February, a shorter month for us here, only 28 days. But expecting to see maybe about 1/2 inch of rain out towards PDX and for much of the valley locations. I think we could be seeing closer to 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch, if not even closer to a full inch for some of our coastal communities as we move past the end of the weekend. And some of those scattered showers still really even taking us into early next week. So far, February has brought us some beneficial rain. We're seeing accumulation of about 1.75 inches. That, as of today, keeping us above average by close to 1/2 inch. That number is going to continue to shrink with the number of rain-free days that are adding up today. Again, tomorrow, on average, we typically see about a little more than 3.5 inches of rain here in Portland for the second month of the brand new year. So we'll be watching that pretty closely because we'd like to hold on to that surplus after seeing that dry streak of weather that really took hold of much of the month of January. So looking into our crystal ball over the next 8 to 14 days, really expecting to see a wetter weather pattern move its way back into the Pacific Northwest. What does that mean? It means a better chance for rain for the coast, just the same for the valley. Cascades, however, they could be picking up on more beneficial snow. And with those cooler temperatures that we expect to see over the next week, at least here in the valley, that will follow suit for the high terrain. So any new snow that does fall will likely be staying in place and giving us some beautiful views like Mount St. Helens there that you see on your screen off in the distance, keeping that snowpack stable. And that will be matched with a cooler temperature trend over the next week to 2 weeks. That is a welcome sight because we really have not had our fair share of a taste of the winter season, which I know some people are saying, don't let spring arrive just yet. We haven't had that cool down, but that will be changing as we start to move our way into the next several days. So we can be positive about that. Snow elevation levels falling back to about 4,000 feet or so. You'll notice by Monday and Tuesday, they retreat back up close to, say, 6,000 feet or so. And that's going to be a bit of a warming and melting mechanism for us. As far as our ski report goes, though, not really picking up on any new snowfall totals as the base layer continues to hover very low, about 6 feet below where we should be for this time of year. Before tonight, we fall back to about 35 degrees. We do start to increase that cloud coverage. Tomorrow afternoon's highs back up very similar to what we've seen over the past few days, although we will have a few more clouds in the mix. And looking at Valentine's Day, a little on the cooler side, below our average of 51 with a high of 48. And typically we see those temperatures in the low 50s, but I think we could match that average precipitation amount of close to about 1/10 of an inch or so. And then really looking into our crystal ball, yeah, we are talking about the cherry blossoms already in sight over the next 4 to 6 weeks or so. You can read more about that right now over at KOIN.com as our 7-day forecast is really painting a pretty seasonal picture for much of us here in the Pacific Northwest. That's where we do anticipate those scattered showers to return on Friday for the Portland Winter Light Festival, just the same for Saturday. That event wraps up. Valentine's Day celebrated nice and cozy. And as we move our way into the middle of next week, a few more scattered showers and cooler temperatures. That's a look at your weather forecast. Stick around. Sports is next.